Dear colleagues, let's talk about hydroxyapatite, HAP, that has emerged as a promising alternative to fluoride in toothpaste formulations for caries prevention. Several studies have demonstrated that HAP can effectively remineralize enamel and prevent dental caries, making it a viable substitute for fluoride, especially in populations sensitive to fluoride's potential side effects. Let's dive in.
Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Today, we're tackling a pretty hot topic in oral health right now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. The battle of the toothpastes.
Ooh, okay.
Fluoride versus hydroxyapatite. So, can a fluoride-free toothpaste really measure up to fluoride?
Yeah.
You know, the one that's like the gold standard for fighting cavities.
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially, there's so many people these days looking for natural alternatives, and then there's the concerns about fluoride, especially for kids.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got some pretty cool research to dig into today. We'll be looking at two studies. One is a clinical trial.
Okay.
It was done on adolescents. They had braces, so
Oh, no.
They're already
A group already prone to more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the second one is an in situ study, and that one used, get this, extracted teeth.
Oh, wow.
And they had adults wear these appliances. So it was like mimicking
like a simulation of real-life conditions.
Real-life conditions. And so both of these studies, they were looking at hydroxyapatite. We'll just call it HAP from now on.
Okay, much easier.
To make it easier.
Yeah.
They were comparing it head-to-head.
Head-to-head.
With fluoride. And they were looking at, how well they prevent and reverse those early stages of decay.
Early stages, okay.
And what's really interesting is that both of these studies actually found that HAP toothpaste was non-inferior to fluoride. Pretty.
That's significant,
I'll
isn't
say it, right?
Yeah, because it challenges that whole assumption we've had for so long.
I know.
That fluoride, it's the only...
Actually, king.
Yeah, the only way to prevent decay.
Right.
So that's
It's like, wow, maybe there's
other options out there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this could be like a game changer, especially for folks who are like...
Absolutely.
Ooh, fluoride. I'm not so sure about that. Yeah. Hesitant about using it.
Yeah.
Right.
But let's rewind a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, fluoride, it's been around forever. It's like the cornerstone of oral health.
For decades, yeah.
For decades.
Yeah.
What are some of the, the challenges that come with using fluoride?
Well, one of the biggest ones is fluorosis.
Okay.
Right? Especially in kids. It's, it's mainly cosmetic, but it can be a concern. Basically, if kids get too much fluoride while their teeth are still developing, you can get these white spots or streaks on the enamel.
Right.
And that's why we have these, dosage restrictions on kids' toothpaste.
Right.
And it's tricky. I know a lot of parents who struggle with, how much is too much.
Oh my gosh, I can relate to that so much. Like figuring out how much to put on my kid's toothbrush was like a
tightrope walk.
A tightrope walk. I'm always like second guessing myself.
Yeah.
But if HAP can really protect teeth without that risk...
Yeah, it could be huge for a lot of parents out there.
Oh, I think it would be, such a relief.
Absolutely, yeah. But what I find even more fascinating is how different these two toothpaste actually work,
Oh.
I mean, they both promote remineralization, right?
Yeah.
That process of restoring minerals to the enamel.
Right. So they're both helping to, rebuild
you can
that...
use it in different ways.
Interesting. Okay, so let's break this down. So HAP, we know it's the main mineral in our bones and teeth.
Yep.
So it kind of makes sense that it would be involved in remineralization.
It makes perfect sense.
Right.
And it works on a few different levels. So it actually fills those tiny little micropores in the enamel directly.
So it's patching up those weak spots.
Exactly. It's like patching up those little holes. And then it also acts as a reservoir of calcium and phosphate.
Oh, right. The building blocks for healthy teeth.
Exactly. So it's creating this environment where remineralization can really thrive.
It's like it's providing the materials and the workers all at the same time.
Yeah.
So how's fluoride different?
So fluoride actually integrates into the enamel structure itself.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's becoming part of the tooth.
Yeah, it's like it's becoming part of the tooth and making it more resistant to those acid attacks, which is why it's been so effective in reducing cavities, all over the world.
Right. Yeah.
But here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
In that in situ study, they found something really interesting. They noticed that fluoride seems to cause like a denser remineralization, but just on the surface of the lesion. Like AKP led to a more even distribution of minerals.
So is it possible that fluoride, like, it makes it look like it's repairing the tooth?
Oh yeah.
But it's really only fixing the surface.
That's exactly.
It's like putting a fresh coat of paint on a house that like has, foundation problems.
That's a great analogy.
Right.
Yeah. That's exactly what some researchers are concerned about.
Right.
That, with fluoride, you get this hard outer layer. It looks like it's fixed.
Yeah.
But underneath there might be decay that you're not seeing.
Oh, that's kind of scary. But both studies found that HAP and fluoride were, like, equally effective at preventing new cavities, right?
That's correct.
So
it's still early days, though. We need more research to really understand what these different remineralization patterns mean in the long term,
Okay, so we've got fluoride. It's been around forever. It works, but you've got to watch out for fluorosis. And it might be hiding some deeper problems.
Yeah, it's possible.
Right. And then we've got HAP. It's showing a lot of promise. It needs more research, but it seems like it could be a real alternative.
Yeah.
What really stands out to you about these studies in particular?
Well, the clinical trial on the teens with braces.
It really highlighted how difficult it is
Yeah.
to keep your mouth healthy when you have braces.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, even with regular brushing, even with fluoride toothpaste,
Yeah.
they saw a big increase in plaque buildup and gum inflammation.
So basically, braces are like an obstacle course for your toothbrush.
An obstacle course for your oral hygiene.
Right. Even if you're super dedicated to brushing and flossing, it's just like, tough. So does this make you think that maybe HAP might be a better option for people with braces?
Well, it's something that researchers are definitely looking into.
Yeah.
HAP is safe even if you swallow it.
Right.
Which is a big deal when you think about kids with braces.
Right, because it's hard enough to get them to brush and floss properly as it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, if you can use HAP at higher doses without that risk of fluorosis,
Right.
it might be even more effective at fighting decay.
Yeah.
In a situation where cavities are already more likely to develop.
Right, because they're struggling to keep everything clean.
Exactly.
Makes sense. But let's dive back into that in situ study for a sec. So they used those extracted baby teeth mounted in
appliances. Worn by adults.
Super clever, right?
Like, what was the thinking behind that?
Well, it allowed the researchers to really control the exposure to the toothpastes.
Ah, okay.
And study the remineralization process in a more isolated setting,
So it's like they created a little laboratory inside the mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool. So do they just focus on remineralization, or do they also look at, like, how well the toothpaste prevented demineralization?
Oh, they actually looked at both. They were clever.
Oh, smart.
They had two types of tooth blocks.
Okay.
One with those little lesions like you were talking about to test the remineralization.
Yeah.
And then another set with healthy enamel to see how well the toothpaste prevented new decay from forming. Oh, okay. So they were really putting them to the test. So what happened? What did they find?
Well, both the HAP and fluoride toothpaste, they remineralized over 50% of the lesion blocks.
Oh, wow.
And get this. There was no demineralization at all.
Wow.
In any of the healthy enamel blocks that were exposed to either toothpaste.
That's amazing. So both were super effective at, like, preventing and reversing early decay?
It seems so, yeah.
But we got to remember that key difference.
That.
Right. Fluoride might only be fixing the surface.
Yeah, that surface level remineralization.
Well, HAP seems to be more...
Yeah, it's more evenly distributed.
Evenly distributed, yeah. So... This difference in how they work, it really raises some big questions, doesn't it?
It really does.
Like, what should people be thinking about at this point in our conversation?
Well, I think one of the big ones is, does that deeper, more even remineralization with HAP actually lead to stronger, healthier teeth in the long run?
Oh.
Right. And could that mean fewer problems down the road? Fewer fillings, fewer extractions?
Oh, those are really good points. It makes you wonder if, like, in the future, we might see people switching to HAP toothpaste.
It's possible.
Especially, for kids or people who are, like, really prone to cavities.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Right.
But we need more research
Oh, for sure.
to know for sure.
You got to have the science to back it up.
Right.
But all right, let's take a closer look at each of those studies.
Okay.
Starting with the clinical trial on adolescents with braces. What were some of the challenges they faced? Anything surprise you about what they found?
Well, one of the, I guess you could call it a challenge, was ethically, they couldn't have a control group that didn't use any toothpaste.
Right. That wouldn't be good.
Yeah, that wouldn't be ethical,
Yeah.
especially, with these kids who already have braces.
Right.
They're already at higher risk for cavities.
Right.
So they had to design the study a little differently.
Okay.
They did what's called a non-inferiority trial.
Non-inferiority. Okay.
So basically, they wanted to show that HAP was at least as good as fluoride
Oh.
at preventing cavities.
So they weren't trying to say that it was better. They were just trying to say that it was
Yeah, at least as good.
at least as good.
Right.
Got it.
Because fluoride's, it's a proven thing.
Right. So how did they actually measure how effective each toothpaste was?
Well, they used this standardized system. It's called ICDAS.
ICDA.
Yes. Stands for International Caries Detection and Assessment System.
Oh, a mouthful.
It's a mouthful.
What does it do?
So basically, it's a way to detect and grade how bad cavities are, especially those early ones that are really hard to see.
So it's like having like a superpower
Yeah.
to see those tiny
on
little
a microscopic lens.
right on the tooth. Yeah. I bet that's super important when you're studying kids with braces because like all those brackets and wires.
Absolutely. Create all these
Right.
little hiding places for plaque, for decay.
Yeah, it makes it really hard to see.
So what did the ICDA show? Like, how did HAP do against fluoride?
Well, the results were pretty impressive.
Hmm.
They found that HAP was just as effective as fluoride at preventing new cavities.
Wow. Even with those braces.
Even with the braces over
Yeah.
6 months.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So did they keep track of anything else besides, how many cavities the kids were getting?
Oh, yeah. They also looked at plaque buildup
Okay.
and gingival inflammation.
Gingival inflammation.
Yeah.
So that's,
That's just a fancy way of saying inflammation of the gums.
okay.
Eh,
Inflammation of the gums. So they wanted to get a bigger picture of like,
the whole
not just the cavity.
picture of their oral health.
Right. What'd they find? Was there a big difference between like the HAP group and the fluoride group? Unfortunately, not really. Both groups, they saw a pretty significant increase in both plaque and gum inflammation over the 6 months.
So basically braces, they just make it really hard
It's a challenge.
to keep your mouth clean.
Yeah, even with good toothpaste,
Yeah.
it's still a challenge.
So I guess it's not really surprising considering all those nooks and crannies.
Just like a breeding ground for bacteria,
Oh, yeah. Hadn't thought of it that way. But it doesn't mean that HAP and fluoride aren't good, right? It's just that braces
It's the environment.
Yeah.
It's just a tough environment.
make it harder. So let's talk about the in situ study.
Okay.
Remember, they used extracted baby teeth. They mounted them in these appliances that
Mhm.
adults wore.
Interesting setup.
So ingenious. Why'd they do that?
Well, it let them really control what the teeth were exposed to,
Right.
right?
Okay.
They could study remineralization without all the variables that you get in a real mouth.
Okay.
Like saliva and diet and how people actually brush.
Right.
So it's like a controlled experiment.
Yeah. A little mini lab.
Exactly.
Super cool. So was this study all about remineralization or did they also look at demineralization?
Both. Actually, oh, wow, they were busy.
Yeah, they had 2 types of tooth blocks, remember?
Right.
One with lesions to test remineralization,
Yeah.
and then another with sound enamel to see if the toothpaste could prevent new decay.
So like a two-pronged approach. Very thorough. What happened?
Both HAP and fluoride did really well. Remineralized over 50% in the lesion blocks.
Oh, wow.
And there was absolutely no demineralization.
No demineralization at all.
In any of the sound enamel blocks,
Well,
whether they
never.
were exposed to HAP or fluoride.
So both toothpastes were really good at like protecting and repairing teeth.
Yeah.
It's like impressive.
It is impressive, yeah.
But we can't forget that difference in how they remineralize.
Right.
Oh yeah. That's important.
Like fluoride, it seems to just create that surface layer.
Yeah, it's like that laminate
Yeah, well, HAP, it's more
HAP is more evenly distributed.
evenly distributed, yeah.
Yeah.
So with the fluoride toothpaste, they saw this thing called lesion lamination.
Lesion lamination. Yeah.
Basically, a really dense layer of minerals forms on the surface.
Yeah, almost like
Almost like, yeah.
a protective barrier.
It's like you said before, patching a crack with just paint.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it might look good on the outside, but the problem's still there underneath.
Right, and that's the worry, isn't it?
Yeah.
That it's masking the decay that's happening underneath.
Yeah, that's a little freaky. So HAP, with its more like even distribution, that might actually be a good thing then.
Well, it could be.
Right.
Because it's not just covering up the problem, it's actually getting into the lesion and remineralizing it from the inside out.
Right. It's addressing the whole crack,
Yeah.
not just the surface.
Yeah, exactly.
But we need more research.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
We need to see how these patterns, how they develop over time and how they really impact the strength of the tooth.
Okay, so we need those long-term studies to really know for sure.
We do.
But it's pretty exciting to think about the possibilities, right?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider that HAP is so safe.
Right.
You know, one of the big takeaways from the research is that because it's so safe,
Yeah.
you can potentially use higher doses
Right.
without worrying about fluorosis.
Which is the huge advantage over fluoride.
huge advantage, especially for people who are, at high risk for cavities.
Right. Like if you can use more of it safely,
Exactly.
you might be able to get even better results.
That's the hope. And the research also highlighted another benefit of HAP, its ability to buffer acids.
Oh, right. Acids, those are like the enemy of tooth enamel. They're the ones
Yeah, they're the ones that eat away at it.
create those weak spots where cavities can form. Exactly.
So anything that can neutralize those acids
is a good thing.
is a good thing. And it sounds like HAP is pretty good at that.
Well, the research suggests that it can act as a really potent buffer.
Oh, wow. So it's counteracting those acid attacks.
It's like a shield, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a shield for your teeth. That's awesome. You mentioned that this buffering effect could provide longer lasting protection.
Yeah, so think of it this way. When you brush with fluoride,
Okay.
the fluoride gets into the enamel,
Mhm.
right? And it makes it stronger.
Yeah.
But that protection fades over time.
Mm-hmm.
With HAP,
Mm-hmm.
the buffering keeps going even after you finish brushing.
Oh, interesting. So it's working around the clock.
Yeah, it's like a 24/7 bodyguard for your teeth.
That's pretty cool. But as cool as HAP sounds,
Yeah.
we still need more research.
Oh, absolutely.
We need to see how it does long term
Long term.
and how it compares to fluoride in different groups of people.
Different populations, yeah.
Yeah. Right. But I think what we can say for sure is that HAP is it's a real contender.
It's a real contender.
in the world of cavity prevention.
It's a potential alternative.
Right, and the research, while it's still early, it's really promising.
Very promising.
So yeah, I'm excited to see what happens.
A fascinating time to be following dental research, that's for sure.
New possibilities are popping up all the time. And
Yeah.
and one thing that struck me while I was reading these studies is the potential impact that HEP could have globally.
Oh, globally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not everyone has access to fluoride.
Right.
Right? There are lots of places where people don't have fluoridated water
Yeah.
or even fluoride toothpaste.
Right.
So if HAP really is just as effective as fluoride,
Mm.
and especially if it's safe to use at higher doses,
Yeah.
it could really change the game for those communities.
It could. It could level the playing field,
Yeah, exactly. It could give people all over the world a chance to have healthier teeth.
Yeah, and that's really what it's all about, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Making sure everyone has a chance at a healthy smile.
Well said. So it really emphasizes how important it is to keep doing research in this area.
Oh, for sure. We need to make sure that any new developments
Yeah.
are accessible and affordable for everybody.
Right. It's not just about making new stuff.
Yeah.
It's about making sure everyone can benefit from it.
Exactly.
I think that's a great point. So at the end of the day, the best toothpaste is the one that you actually like and use regularly.
Absolutely.
Right.
Right. All the fancy ingredients don't mean anything if you're not brushing and flossing.
Exactly. So brush twice a day, floss every day,
Yeah, the basics.
and see your dentist for checkups. That's the
That's
foundation
of good oral health.
of good oral health.
Yeah.
And choosing a toothpaste that you enjoy using can actually make those habits easier to stick to.
Oh, definitely. Makes it more enjoyable,
It does. Okay, I think that's a great place to wrap up for today. We've covered a lot about HAP toothpaste
We have.
and how it might be a safe alternative to fluoride.
Exciting stuff.
Super exciting stuff.
Yeah.
So before we go, I want to leave everyone with one last thing to think about.
Okay.
We've talked about how safe HAP is and how you might be able to use higher doses.
Right, right.
Could it be like a game changer for kids, especially those who are really prone to cavities?
That's a good question.
Or could combining HAP and fluoride, like, give us the best of both worlds?
Ooh, that's an interesting thought.
Right.
Yeah, getting, the protection and remineralization all in one.
Exactly. So these are some questions that researchers are working on right now, and we're definitely going to keep an eye on it and see what the future holds for this whole new frontier in oral care.
Definitely. It's an exciting time for oral health.
It is. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of HAP versus fluoride.
My pleasure.
We encourage you to keep learning about this stuff. Stay tuned for more deep dives into the latest dental research.
Yeah, lots more to come.
And until next time, keep those smiles bright and healthy.
Absolutely. It's amazing, isn't it, how much research is going on in oral health these days?
I know. It seems like every day there's something new to learn about.
Yeah, these 2 studies we've been talking about,
Yeah.
they're just the tip of the iceberg, really.
It's like we're moving away from that old idea that, everyone needs the same kind of oral care.
Right, that one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. And HAP, especially for kids, and people who are really prone to cavities, it just seems like it has so much potential.
It really does.
Speaking of kids, let's talk about those adolescents with braces
Okay.
in that clinical trial. What were some of the hurdles that the researchers had to deal with? Because I imagine it's pretty tough to study that group, right?
Oh, it is. I mean, just think about it. It's already hard enough to keep your teeth clean when you have braces.
Right.
And then, ethically, you can't have a control group that's not using any toothpaste.
Right. You can't just, leave those kids to fend for themselves.
Like that.
That would be a disaster.
So they had to get creative with their study design.
Okay.
They used what's called a non-inferiority trial.
Non-inferiority.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does that mean exactly?
So instead of trying to prove that HAP was better than fluoride,
Right.
they just wanted to show that it was at least as good.
Ah, okay, so they set a lower bar.
Yeah, kind of.
But it's still a good bar, right?
Yeah, because fluoride, I mean, it's the gold standard.
Right, it works.
Yeah, so if HAP can measure up to that, that's a
Yeah.
big deal.
Okay, so they're basically saying, look, we know fluoride works. Let's see if HAP can at least do the same thing.
Exactly.
Makes sense. So how did they actually measure the effectiveness of each toothpaste?
They use a system called ICDS.
ICDAS, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, it stands for International Caries Detection and Assessment System.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay, so remind me, what does ICDAS do again?
It's basically a way to look at teeth.
Okay.
And see how bad cavities are, especially those early ones.
The ones that are hard to see.
Right, the ones that you might miss if you're just looking with the naked eye.
So it's like they had a special magnifying glass or something.
Yeah, like a microscopic lens.
Okay, and why was that so important for this study?
Well, because these kids had braces.
Right.
All those brackets and wires.
Yeah.
They create so many little hiding places for plaque and decay.
This is like an obstacle course for your toothbrush.
It really is.
So they needed something that could really pinpoint those tiny little cavities.
Exactly.
Okay, so what did the ICDAS tell them? How did HACDAS tell them? How did HACDA stack up against fluoride?
Well, after 6 months,
Okay.
HAP was just as effective as fluoride at preventing new cavities.
Wow, even with all those braces getting in the way.
Even with the braces.
That's impressive. But you mentioned earlier that they also tracked other things besides just cavity formation.
Oh, yeah. They also looked at plaque buildup
Okay.
and gingival inflammation.
Gingival inflammation. That's, what is that again?
It's just inflammation of the gums.
Okay, so they were looking at the overall health of the gums, not just the teeth.
Exactly.
Makes sense. What did they find? Any big differences between the HAP group and the fluoride group?
Unfortunately, no. Both groups saw a pretty big increase in plaque and gum inflammation over the 6 months.
So even with good toothpaste, braces just make it really hard to keep things perfectly clean.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Yeah, I guess it's not really a surprise, right? I mean, all those brackets and wires.
It's like you said, it's an obstacle course.
Yeah.
It's really hard to reach every nook and cranny.
So it's not really the fault of the toothpaste, it's just the environment.
Right, it's just a tough environment.
Yeah. Okay, let's switch gears now and talk about that in situ study.
Okay, the one with the extracted baby teeth.
Yeah, the one where they had adults wearing those appliances.
Yeah.
So clever. Why did they go with that approach?
Well, it let them create a really controlled environment. They
Mhm.
could study remineralization without all those other factors that you get in a real mouth.
Right, like saliva, diet, brushing habits. So
Exactly.
it's like they built a little laboratory inside the mouth itself.
Yeah, a mini lab.
That's so cool. And they use two types of tooth blocks, right?
That's right.
Can you break that down for us again?
Sure. So they had one set of blocks with little lesions that they created
Okay.
to mimic early cavities.
Right.
And those were for testing remineralization.
Okay.
And then they had another set of blocks with healthy enamel.
Okay.
And those were for testing how well the toothpaste could prevent new decay.
Okay. So they were testing both the healing power and the preventative power.
Exactly.
Very smart. What were the results?
Well, in terms of remineralization, both ADP and fluoride did really well. They both remineralized over 50% in those lesion blocks.
Wow. That's a pretty good track record.
And there was no statistically significant difference between them.
So neck and neck in terms of healing those early cavities.
Pretty much.
What about preventing demineralization? Did those healthy enamel blocks stay healthy?
They did. There was no demineralization at all in any of the sound blocks.
No demineralization.
Nope, not a single one.
Wow, that's amazing. So both toothpastes were super effective at protecting those teeth from new decay.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
It really is. Okay, but let's go back to that difference and how they remineralize, because that was like a big finding.
Oh yeah, the fluoride seemed to create that denser layer on the surface.
Right, and HAP was more evenly distributed.
Yeah.
So with fluoride, they saw what they called lesion lamination.
Lesion lamination.
It's basically like a thick layer of minerals forms on the surface of the lesion.
Almost like a shell.
Yeah, but like we said before, it might just be covering up the problem underneath.
Like putting a Band-Aid on a broken bone.
Yeah, exactly. It might look fixed,
Right.
but the underlying issue is still there.
And that could lead to problems down the road.
Yeah, you might not even realize there's a bigger problem until it's too late.
Exactly.
So in that sense, HAP's more even distribution, it seems like it could be a good thing.
Potentially, yeah.
Right.
If it's remineralizing the entire lesion, not just the surface.
Yeah, it's like it's addressing the whole problem, not just hiding it.
Exactly.
But we need more research, right?
We do. We need to see how those remineralization patterns affect the long-term health of the teeth.
Right. We can't get too excited just yet?
No, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Okay, so we've got these two small-scale studies
Mm,
showing some really promising results for HAP.
yeah,
But we need more data.
we do.
We need bigger studies, longer studies.
Longer studies, different populations.
Right, to really confirm these findings.
Exactly.
But one of the things that's really exciting about HAP is that it's so safe.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge advantage.
Right. Like you can potentially use higher doses without worrying about fluorosis,
Especially for kids.
especially for kids.
That's a game changer.
Right. If you can use more of it safely,
Yeah,
you might get even better results.
that's what we're hoping for.
And HAP can also buffer acids, right?
That's right.
Which is like super important for protecting teeth.
Acids are the enemy.
Yeah. They're the ones that eat away at our enamel and cause those weak spots.
Exactly.
But HAP, it's like a shield against those acids.
It's like a little bodyguard for your teeth.
And you were saying that this buffering effect could actually provide longer lasting protection than fluoride.
Yeah, because fluoride, it kind of gets used up.
Right.
You know, it gets incorporated into the enamel, but then it's gone.
Okay.
But HAP, it keeps working.
It's like a rechargeable shield.
Yeah, exactly. It keeps buffering those acids even after you finish brushing.
That's so cool. So it's like it's providing continuous protection.
Yeah, 24/7 protection. Wow. But even though HAP sounds amazing,
Yeah.
we got to be realistic, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We still need more research.
More research
We need to see how it performs long term
long term.
and how it compares to fluoride in different groups of people.
Different populations.
Right.
Different situations.
Yeah, it's not a magic bullet.
It's not a magic bullet.
But I think the takeaway here is that HAP is showing a lot of promise.
A lot of promise.
It could be a real game changer in the world of cavity prevention.
Yeah, it could be a safe and effective alternative to fluoride.
And the research is really exciting, even though it's still early.
It's a really interesting time to be following this field.
I know. It's like dentistry is going through a revolution.
Yeah, just like a whole new era of oral health is beginning.
And one of the things that really struck me about these studies
Yeah.
is the potential impact that HAP could have globally.
Globally, okay.
Yeah, because not everyone has access to fluoride.
That's right. There are a lot of communities where fluoride is just not an option.
Yeah, they might not have fluoridated water. They might not even have access to fluoride toothpaste.
Right.
So if HAP is just as effective,
Yeah.
and especially if it's safe to use at higher doses,
Yeah.
it could really level the playing field.
It could give everyone a chance at a healthy smile.
Exactly. And that's something I'm really passionate about.
It's a worthy goal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because everyone deserves to have a healthy smile no matter where they live or how much money they have.
Absolutely.
So it's really important that we keep researching HAP
Oh, absolutely.
and make sure that any new developments are accessible to everyone.
Accessible and affordable.
Right, because it's not enough to just create new products. We have to make sure that everyone can benefit from them.
I agree.
I think that's a really important point.
It is.
Okay, so at the end of the day,
Yeah.
the best toothpaste is the one that you're actually going to use.
That's the truth.
It doesn't matter how fancy it is or how many amazing ingredients it has
Right.
if you're not using it regularly.
It's got to be something you like.
Yeah, it has to be something you enjoy using.
Something that makes you want to brush.
Right, and you got to brush twice a day, floss every day.
See your dentist.
Yes, see your dentist.
Mhm.
Those are like the non-negotiables.
Foundation of good oral health.
Right, the foundation.
Yeah.
And choosing a toothpaste that you actually like using, it can make it easier to stick to those good habits.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
It can make it more enjoyable.
Yeah, it's not just a chore. It's something that you actually look forward to.
Right. Exactly.
I think that's a great note to end on.
Yeah. A good reminder.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today talking about HAP toothpaste
We have
and how it could be a really great alternative to fluoride.
a lot of potential there.
A lot of potential.
Yeah.
So before we wrap things up,
Okay.
I want to leave everyone with one last thought.
Okay. I'm ready.
We've talked about how safe HAP is.
Mm-hmm. And how it might be possible to use higher doses.
Right.
So could it be a game changer for kids' oral health?
Hmm.
Especially kids who are like really prone to cavities.
That's a great question.
Or what if we combined HAP and fluoride?
Ooh, interesting.
Right. Could we get like the best of both worlds?
Yeah, like a super toothpaste.
Exactly. So these are some things that researchers are looking into right now.
Yeah, exciting time.
And we're definitely going to be following this research closely.
I can't wait to see what they find out.
Me too.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of HAP versus fluoride.
My pleasure.
We encourage you to keep learning about this topic.
Yeah, keep those brains working.
And stay tuned for more deep dives into all the latest dental research.
Well, it's more to come.
Until next time, keep those smiles bright and healthy.
Absolutely. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, something as simple as toothpaste.
I know. It's like easy to forget that something we use every day can have such a big impact on people's health all over the world.
Right. It's pretty amazing.
It really is. It makes you wonder what other like breakthroughs are just around the corner.
Oh, I know. It's an exciting time to be in this field, that's for sure.
What are some of the areas that you're most excited about? Like what's on the horizon for oral health?
Well, one thing that I think is really cool is the idea of personalized oral care.
Personalized oral care.
Yeah. Like imagine if we could create toothpaste that's specifically designed for each person.
Oh, wow. Like based on their genes or something.
Exactly. Or their oral microbiome.
Right.
Or even their lifestyle habits.
So it's like having a custom-made toothpaste just for you.
Yeah, a toothpaste that's perfectly tailored to your needs.
That would be amazing. And I guess it wouldn't just be toothpaste, right? Like all sorts of oral care products could be personalized.
Right. Mouthwash, floss.
Yeah.
Even dental treatments.
Wow. That's like the future of dentistry right there.
It really is. It's all about precision and getting the best possible results for each individual.
I love it. Okay, so we've talked about HAP as like a standalone alternative to fluoride.
Right.
But we also touched on the possibility of combining them.
Oh, yeah, that's a really interesting idea.
What do you think about that?
I think it has a lot of potential. I mean,
Yeah.
you're basically combining two powerhouses.
Right. So we could get the cavity fighting power of fluoride,
Mm-hmm.
plus all those other benefits of HAP, like the remineralization and the buffering.
And the safety. Don't forget about the safety.
Right, because HAP is safe to swallow.
Exactly.
So it could be especially good for kids.
Yeah, because they're more likely to swallow toothpaste.
Right.
And they're also more susceptible to cavities.
So combining HAP and fluoride could be like a win-win for kids' oral health.
It really could.
Yeah.
It's like giving them the ultimate protection.
I love it. But I know research on this is still pretty new, right? What are some of the questions that scientists are trying to answer?
Well, one of the big ones is figuring out the right ratio of HAP to fluoride.
Okay.
Like, what's the perfect balance to get the best results?
Right.
And then there are also questions about how to deliver it.
Oh, yeah, like should it be in toothpaste or mouthwash or something else entirely?
Exactly. There might be some totally new delivery systems that we haven't even thought of yet.
Oh, that's so cool. Like maybe nanoparticles that slowly release the HAP and fluoride.
Yeah. Or maybe some kind of like time release patch that you stick on your teeth.
Oh, wow. That would be amazing.
And the possibilities are really endless.
It's like science fiction is becoming reality.
I know. It's so exciting to see what the future holds.
And like we've been saying, it's not just about developing these amazing new technologies. It's about making sure everyone has access to them,
Absolutely. Everyone deserves a healthy smile.
no matter where they live or how much money they have.
Exactly.
That's a really powerful message.
It is.
Okay, well, I think this has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
We've learned so much about HAP
so much.
and its potential to revolutionize oral health.
It's a real game changer.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. It's been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you for having me.
And to all of our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in. We encourage you to keep learning about this fascinating topic and all the amazing things happening in the world of dentistry. And until next time, keep those smiles bright and healthy.